I'm a 32-year-old woman, and I've been married to my husband, Aaron, who's 35, for 4 years now. And so we met at a mutual friend's board game night, Settlers of Catan, and if you're curious, and we hit it off pretty much instantly. 2 years later, we were married. He's a high school history teacher, and I'm a project lead at a mid-sized tech company. From the very beginning, I earned more than him. Not slightly more, significantly more, but it was never a problem between us. If anything, Aaron was always the first one cheering me on whenever I hit a promotion or closed a difficult client deal. He's the type to brag about me to his coworkers, more than I'd ever brag about myself. His parents, though? That's a different story. The first time I met them, they seemed nice enough. Polite, well-dressed, formal in that sort of country club way. His mother wore pearls to brunch. His father called Aaron champ unironically. They were perfectly civil, but there was something about them that felt stiff, like I was being interviewed for a position I didn't apply for. The first few times we visited, I noticed small things. His mother would tilt her head and say things like, "It must be interesting having a husband who doesn't mind being taken care of," and then smile like she'd just paid me a compliment. His father once asked me if I ever got bored of being the man in the relationship. I tried to brush it off, chalk it up to their generational gap or whatever excuse I could come up with, but it got harder to ignore once we bought our first house. We'd been saving for years, and I put down 70% of the payment. Aaron had a small inheritance from his grandfather, and that made up the rest. But his parents assumed it was the other way around, and we never corrected them. We didn't think it mattered. That was a mistake. A few months later, we hosted a casual family barbecue at our place. Burgers, ribs, beer, the usual. Aaron had been going through some work documents earlier in the day and left a few things out on the kitchen counter, one of which was a pay stub of mine. It wasn't even hidden, just sitting under a folder next to the fridge. I didn't think anything of it. That night, right after dinner, his mother casually asked me if I ever worried about emasculating Aaron. She didn't whisper it. She asked in front of everyone, over dessert, as if she were asking me if I preferred whipped cream or ice cream with my pie. I laughed, thinking she was making some sarcastic joke. But no one else was laughing, especially not her. Aaron didn't flinch. He just looked at her and said, "I'm not emasculated. I'm proud." You could have heard a pin drop. After that, things went quiet. No snide remarks, no jokes, nothing. For a while, I thought they'd gotten the message, but it turns out they'd just changed their strategy. Suddenly, Aaron was getting invited to lunch, just him. His father started pulling him aside to ask questions like, "Don't you ever think about being the main provider?" And then one day, Aaron accidentally left his phone on speaker while talking to his aunt, and we both heard his parents in the background saying, "We're just worried she's got too much control. Everything's in her name. That's not how it should be." That was the first time I saw Aaron truly angry about it. Not annoyed, angry. He went to see them that weekend and had a direct conversation. Told them it was our life, our marriage, and our finances weren't open for debate. They nodded and pretended to agree, but within a few days, the passive aggression was back. Thanksgiving rolled around. His parents told him I wasn't invited this year, said it was a family-only thing. He told them that if I wasn't welcome, then neither was he. We ended up hosting our own dinner with some friends who couldn't travel that year, and honestly, it was perfect. But that was the tipping point. From that moment, they basically cut us off. Group chats? They quietly removed both of us. Birthday cards? Only addressed to Aaron. Events? Suddenly we were forgotten in the invites. Aaron tried reaching out a few times, but they either didn't respond or replied with vague excuses. And then things got weirder. One of Aaron's ex-girlfriends reached out to him via Instagram. Apparently, his parents had contacted her just to check in and asked how she was doing these days. She thought it was strange enough to send us the messages. His mother had gone as far as asking if she was seeing anyone and telling her she was always part of the family. That was when I stopped playing nice. If they wanted a polite, passive daughter-in-law who kept quiet and played along with outdated gender roles, they picked the wrong woman to mess with. Because I'm done being polite. They've pushed this too far. And I'm not about to let them quietly sabotage my marriage from the sidelines. Aaron got a lunch invite from his parents last Saturday. It was worded as a peace talk, just him, his mom, and dad, somewhere neutral. I told him to go. Sometimes people deserve a chance to say their piece, even if you already know they're not coming from a good place. He agreed, thinking maybe this was their way of finally moving on. He got there and realized fast that it wasn't a lunch. It was a full-scale intervention. His older brother was already seated when he arrived. His aunt came in 5 minutes later. No one had ordered anything. They weren't there to eat. They were there to ambush. The whole thing started with them insisting he needed to reclaim control of his life. His father asked if he even made decisions anymore, or if everything was run through the firm. Me. His mother chimed in about how Aaron had changed and was less confident since being with me. They didn't dance around their message at all. Then came the bomb. His mother asked if he had ever considered divorce. Just flat out asked, like she was offering him a snack. She even told him she knew a lawyer, a family friend, who could make it easy. Aaron didn't say anything at the time. He was too stunned. But his phone was in his jacket pocket, and he'd hit record the moment he realized it wasn't a real lunch. Halfway through the audio, his aunt started talking about his ex-girlfriend, said she was still single, still local, and had really matured. She even suggested they had always had natural chemistry and that it might be worth catching up with her. That was the moment Aaron stood up. The recording caught his chair scraping back, and then his voice, flat but firm, telling them to stay out of his life. He sent me the recording on his way home. I listened to the whole thing twice. They weren't even subtle about what they were trying to do. It wasn't concern. It was control. It was manipulation, plain and simple. When Aaron walked through the door, he looked like someone who'd just seen something he couldn't unsee. He didn't talk right away, just stood in the doorway, keys still in hand, staring at the floor. Then he just sat down on the couch and broke down, not from sadness, just overwhelmed. He apologized over and over for not realizing sooner how far his parents had gone. I told him we were done playing defense. We were going to handle this the smart way. Not with yelling, not with more drama. With moves they couldn't undo. That Monday, I booked a legal consultation. The lawyer walked me through our options. We moved our joint assets into a trust in my name. Aaron is fully protected in it. It's not about cutting him out, it's about making sure his parents never get access, even if something were to happen to him. The paperwork was signed by Friday. By Sunday, word had gotten around. His parents didn't waste time. They started making their rounds first at church, then through the neighborhood, telling people I was materialistic, that I had emasculated their son, and that our marriage was one-sided. A few friends mentioned overhearing it. One even recorded a short clip during coffee hour. I saved it, not because I planned to use it, but because it's always good to know what they're spreading. Then came the voicemail. Aaron's mother left it after dinner one night. 4 minutes of carefully rehearsed lines about missing the days when men led their families, followed by a stiff apology for how things came across and an invitation to return to more traditional values. We didn't respond. Instead, I moved one of our wedding photos, an enlarged, framed one, from the guest room to the hallway, right across from the bedroom door. Every morning, it's the first thing Aaron sees when he walks out. A quiet reminder of who we are without all the noise. But they weren't done. His older brother sent him a message midweek with a job posting attached, some mid-level admin position at a logistics firm. No intro, no context, just the link and a note saying, maybe if you made more, your marriage would be more equal. Aaron stared at the message for a second, then just replied, or maybe if you made better life choices, you wouldn't live with mom at 38. We blocked his brother after that. No explanation, no dramatic exit, just gone. His brother hasn't been able to reach either of us since. We also blocked his aunt shortly after she sent one final text, how dare you humiliate them in public. You've caused permanent damage tonight. She's the one who suggested reconnecting with the ex, and there's no coming back from that. The last move was mine. I sent a group message to every family member who had been involved in that lunch. It said, if any of you want to talk to Aaron, do so respectfully. If you bring up his ex again, I will consider it harassment. No one replied. For the first time in months, everything went quiet. No calls, no messages, no drive-by check-ins, nothing. Just silence. But silence doesn't always mean peace. 2 weeks after the silence started, we got an email from the church Aaron grew up attending. It was a formal invite to a marriage enrichment evening, the kind with refreshments, folding chairs, and laminated programs. It seemed out of nowhere, but the email was worded like it was sent to select couples. Aaron hadn't stepped foot in that building in years, and I only ever went with him twice for community events. Still, we decided to go. Something felt off, and we wanted to know why they suddenly wanted us there. It didn't take long to figure it out. We walked into the fellowship hall, and the first face we saw was his mother's. She was standing near the podium, talking to someone in a blazer holding a clipboard. His father waved at us from the second row. Right then, Aaron leaned in and whispered, "This is a setup." He was right. The entire evening had been arranged by his parents. They weren't even subtle about it. We were introduced as one of the example couples during the opening remarks. The speaker, a grinning man in his 60s, talked about the beauty of God-ordained roles in the home. His wife chimed in to describe how she hadn't touched a bank account in decades and wouldn't dream of questioning her husband's authority. The moment the phrase "a real man leads his home" came out of the speaker's mouth, Aaron stiffened. I gripped the edge of my chair. During the Q&A, Aaron's father stood up. No mic needed. His voice filled the room. He talked about how painful it was to watch his son forget his place as the head of the household and become a follower instead of a leader. He ended with something like, "I raised a man, not a support character." There were a few nods from the crowd. Some older couples smiled, but others looked uncomfortable. The room started buzzing. Aaron didn't wait for anyone to call on him. He walked straight up to the mic and took it. His voice was calm, steady. He said, "You're right. A real man does lead, but he leads with love, not ego. He doesn't need to be richer or louder to be respected. He knows his worth, even when others try to shrink it." The room went dead quiet. Not a cough, not a shuffle, just silence. I stood up too. No mic needed. I said, "Marriage isn't about who earns more. It's about who shows up, who contributes, who holds space. And anyone stuck in the 1950s needs to update their software, because the rest of us are trying to build partnerships, not empires." We walked out before anyone could respond. By the time we got home, my phone had blown up. His aunt had texted, "How dare you humiliate them in public? You've caused permanent damage tonight." There were 3 missed calls from a number neither of us recognized. Probably a landline. We didn't call back, but not all the messages were angry. A few younger members from the church messaged us privately. One said, "I've never seen someone say what I've been thinking for years. Thank you." Another told Aaron he'd given them hope that they didn't have to choose between love and independence. That night, we sat at the kitchen table, just the two of us, eating reheated pasta and finally having the conversation we'd put off for too long. We talked about pressure, expectations, what it meant to be partners. We talked about the years we both spent walking on eggshells around his family, always trying to avoid being disrespectful, when all they ever did was steamroll boundaries. It was the first time in a while things felt clear. 3 days later, Aaron's parents filed a formal complaint with the church board. They accused us of disrupting a sacred event and spreading anti-family sentiment. We weren't members, so the board couldn't do much. But they did release a vague public message the following Sunday. It said, "Marriage looks different for everyone. Our community welcomes all respectful expressions of love and partnership." That was all. Nothing dramatic. But the message was clear. His parents were furious. They sent a 5-paragraph group text to every family member in their contact list, said we had humiliated them, turned their church against them, and crushed their dreams of having a traditional family legacy. It ended with a warning that we'd regret severing ties. Aaron read it once and didn't say a word. He just turned his phone off and slid it across the table. Then he looked at me and said, "We need to go no contact, at least for now." I didn't argue. I nodded, walked over to my phone, and blocked his mother, father, aunt, and brother for good. Aaron did the same. No message, no warning. Just done. They don't have any other way to reach us now. No more group chats. No more drive-by invites. No more guilt trips disguised as church events. It's quiet again. But this time, it's the kind of quiet we chose. Aaron got the text around 3:40 p.m. on a Thursday. We were both working from home. I was in a video call, and he was grading papers on the couch. His phone buzzed, and the moment he read it, he stood up like he'd been hit. The message was from his father. It said, "It's your mother. Come quickly. Hospital. No time to talk." He grabbed his keys and ran out before I could ask anything. I heard the car start as I ended my call. I tried calling him. No answer. 10 minutes went by. Still nothing. I opened the tracking app we'd set up months ago when I traveled for work. His location pinged not at a hospital, but at his parents' house. I drove there without calling ahead. When I pulled up, his car was already in the driveway. I knocked once, then walked in. His parents had never changed the lock. Inside, there was no emergency, no ambulance, no urgent care signs. Just his mother, composed, sitting on the couch with a neatly arranged snack tray and a glass of wine in hand. No sign of urgency, no sign of distress. His father stood behind the kitchen island, looking like he'd been caught mid-act. When his mother saw me, she jolted like I was an intruder. Aaron was standing in the middle of the room, hands open, completely confused. His father muttered something about a mix-up and how things got lost in translation. No one looked at each other directly. Aaron asked what was going on. His father finally admitted it wasn't an emergency. He said they had to get through to him emotionally and figured this was the only way he'd come. His mother added that they just wanted one honest conversation without her influence, meaning me. Then came the guilt trip. His mother leaned forward and told him he used to be such a good son until she came along. She said they just wanted their boy back, the one who didn't question them, didn't push back, didn't build a life that excluded them. His father handed him an envelope. Inside was a folded, lined sheet of paper, supposedly written by Aaron's grandmother, who passed away a few years ago. The note was short. It said men must lead with authority or lose their families. It ended with his grandmother's name underlined twice. Aaron stared at the paper. I didn't. I looked straight at the handwriting and knew immediately it wasn't real. His grandmother had shaky penmanship. This was clean, careful cursive. I'd seen it before on Christmas cards and grocery lists. It was his mother's handwriting. Aaron didn't say anything at first. He walked to the fireplace, unfolded the paper again, then looked at both of them. Then he snapped. He raised the paper and asked them if they had actually used a fake medical emergency and a dead woman to manipulate him into coming over. He didn't shout, but the sharpness in his voice made his mother flinch. He dropped the letter on the floor and walked out. I followed. No one tried to stop us. The drive home was quiet. He sat in the passenger seat with his fists closed tight, staring out the window. I didn't ask anything. I just drove. That night, we didn't talk much. We reheated leftovers and sat in silence. Around 10, he finally spoke. He said it wasn't the first time they'd done something like this. Every time he'd ever made a choice they didn't like, there was a stunt, a breakdown, a sudden crisis. But this was the first time he'd seen it so clearly. The next morning, I installed a security camera at the front door and set us up with a call screening service. From now on, every unknown number goes to voicemail. We also locked down our shared calendar, removed access from old email addresses, and triple-checked our home security settings. Later that evening, Aaron got a voicemail. It was from his mother. 5 minutes long. She talked about how he had abandoned his values, how she didn't raise him to be this kind of man, and how he'd let an outsider rewrite his future. He played it on speaker while we cooked dinner. Neither of us spoke. When it ended, we finished eating in silence. Later that night, I commented on another story about family manipulation on a community board I follow. All I wrote was, "She's fine." We were there. Cheese board looked great. Within minutes, people started liking it. A few even replied with similar stories. Then came the message from his cousin. She's in her late 20s and has always been kind to us but stayed neutral. This time she didn't hold back. Her message said, "This is too far. I'm siding with you too. Your parents are losing their grip. I'm sorry I didn't speak up sooner." That was the first break in the wall. A single person from his family acknowledging that what just happened wasn't normal. There's no going back from this. Not after a fake hospital emergency. Not after a forged letter from a dead grandmother. Not after the voicemail trying to rewrite everything we've built. The email hit my inbox on a Monday morning with the subject line, "Administrative Notice, HR Inquiry." It was short, formal, and direct. Someone had filed an anonymous report accusing me of financial coercion and inappropriate conduct related to budget handling. Because of the nature of my role, where I manage sensitive project funds and supervise vendors, the company was required by law to launch an internal review. Effective immediately, I was placed on administrative leave. The message didn't say who submitted the complaint. That's standard. But the wording of it, not standard at all. It was too specific. It mentioned my exact salary range, my department's internal nickname, and even a code name for a project I'd only ever discussed out loud once, at dinner with Aaron's family. It wasn't the kind of thing you'd stumble across on LinkedIn or Glassdoor. It was something you'd only know if you were sitting at our table when I casually mentioned it over lasagna. That's when I checked our home printer history. A screenshot of my pay stub had been printed 10 days after that family dinner. I hadn't printed it. Aaron hadn't either, but his old laptop was connected to the printer, and he remembered loaning it to his father briefly around that time, supposedly to scan some tax paperwork. He hadn't thought anything of it at the time. We went through the email logs. That's right. Buried in Aaron's sent folder, never opened, but recorded in metadata, was a single message with an attachment titled project_review.png sent to his father's email address. That was all I needed. I hired a corporate attorney that same day. She drafted a formal notice to my company's human resources team warning them that the complaint might be part of a targeted slander campaign. We attached preliminary evidence. I wasn't going to let them play this kind of game. Later in the week, during a scheduled HR check-in, the rep told me they found the complaint's language to be unusually specific. She asked if I'd ever discussed project details or budget information with anyone outside the company. I told her the truth, only once, and only casually, at a family dinner with my husband's parents. That's when everything clicked. Aaron drove to his parents' house that same evening. He didn't tell me he was going until he was halfway there. He wanted to go alone. When he got back, he had a story and a recording. He'd confronted his father first, who flat out denied everything, said he had no idea what Aaron was talking about. But then his mother came into the room and said, "We did it for your future. She controls you through money." That was enough. Aaron had been recording the whole conversation on his phone. He sent the audio to me immediately. My attorney listened to it and gave the green light to send it to HR. Within 48 hours, I was reinstated. HR formally dismissed the complaint, apologized in writing, and sealed the report so it would never affect my internal file. Then something unexpected happened. My manager called me privately the next day. She'd heard about the situation, not the details, just the outcome. She told me that anyone who could survive a hit job like that and remain professional deserved more than just a clean slate. I was bumped up to lead on a new project launching next quarter. No announcement, just a quiet promotion and a budget increase. My lawyer wasn't done either. She filed a cease and desist letter addressed directly to Aaron's parents. It outlined the complaint, the forged documentation, the confirmed intent to harm my professional reputation, and warned that any further attempt to interfere with my employment, finances, or digital footprint would result in immediate legal action. We didn't wait around for their next move. Aaron and I both changed our phone numbers the following weekend. We shut down every personal social media account we had, deleted old emails, and set up new ones. We only gave our new contact information to 10 people, close friends, a few trusted family members, and our lawyers. The cousin who had reached out before stayed in touch. She messaged us saying she'd heard something exploded and offered to help however she could. Aaron thanked her but didn't go into detail. The silence that followed wasn't peaceful. It was the kind of silence that meant the storm had shifted underground. No calls, no emails, no unexpected visitors, just a gap in the air where chaos used to sit. We knew them well enough by now to understand they weren't done. Thank you, Markel. But they had underestimated something. I had kept every message, every voicemail, every email header, and every recorded conversation. We had timelines, names, connections, and now we had legal documentation. They fired their shot and missed. Now it was our turn to decide what came next. It started with a text from Aaron's cousin, the same one who had sided with us after everything blew up. She invited us to her daughter's birthday party at a public park. Just a few family members, some kids, pizza, and balloons. She promised Aaron's parents wouldn't be there. Just my side, she wrote. "You're safe, I swear." We hesitated for a day, but eventually said yes. It had been quiet for weeks. No voicemails, no sightings, no passive-aggressive birthday cards. We showed up with a tray of cupcakes and a wrapped gift, trying to keep our expectations low and our eyes open. The party started off normal. There was a bounce house, juice boxes, folding chairs in the grass. We chatted with two of her friends, helped a toddler open a snack pack, and handed off the gift to the cousin, who looked genuinely happy to see us. For 20 minutes, everything felt calm. Then the trap snapped shut. Aaron's parents arrived without warning. His older brother walked in behind them, followed by someone we hadn't seen in over a year, his ex-girlfriend, the one his mother had tried to reconnect him with. She was wearing jeans and a pastel blouse like she'd just come from brunch. She carried a gift bag and waved like it was normal to be there. His mother did the fake surprise gasp. "Oh, you came?" Like she hadn't known we'd be there. She clutched her pearls, literally, and did the wide-eyed innocent act like she was just as shocked as we were. Aaron stiffened immediately. His ex walked right up and hugged him without asking, said something about how long it had been, how great he looked, how funny it was to run into him like this. I stood completely still, watching her stage the moment for an audience. A few guests turned their heads. Then his mother said it loud enough for people nearby to hear. "We just thought it would be nice if you saw what could have been." Aaron didn't react right away, but his father leaned in next, saying something like, "She never tried to isolate you. She just doesn't want your money." That was when Aaron stepped back, looked at his ex, and told her plainly, "You're here because they asked you to be. Please leave." She looked stunned. She didn't argue. But before she walked off, she leaned in and whispered something into his ear. I couldn't hear what it was, but Aaron's jaw clenched. She left without another word. I stepped forward and spoke loud enough for the whole area to hear. "You staged this. You used a child's birthday party to humiliate your own son." The table next to us went quiet. One kid stopped mid-bite. The cousin, the host, looked horrified. She pulled us aside, away from the crowd. She kept saying she had no idea. She thought the grandparents just wanted to stop by for 10 minutes to drop off a gift. She said they told her it was going to be a sweet surprise reunion. Looking back, she admitted she should have known better and apologized through tears, saying she hadn't expected them to cross this line. Aaron stood up, turned to the remaining adults, and raised his voice just enough to carry. "We're done being part of this family circus. Do not contact us again. You've made your choice. This was it." He didn't wait for anyone to reply. He took my hand and started walking back to the car. On our way out, I caught a glimpse of his ex. She wasn't talking. She wasn't smiling. Her eyes met mine, just for a second, somewhere between regret and shame. She didn't say anything. I didn't either. That was the last thing we ever shared. 2 hours later, a final group text came through. It was from his parents. One message sent to both of us. "We failed as parents. You've abandoned us for someone who buys your loyalty." And I typed the response myself, He doesn't have to be bought. He chooses me because I choose him. Every single time. We didn't hear back. That weekend, Aaron made it official. He scheduled a final administrative call with Human Resources to remove his parents from his emergency contact list. He also removed himself from their phone family plan and cleared out any jointly held subscriptions or family-linked accounts. It wasn't an emotional move. It was logistical, quiet, final. No more surprise logins. No more shared passwords. No more excuses for his parents to pop back into our digital lives under the pretense of old data. We locked everything down. What they meant to be a reunion turned into their last performance. And this time we were the ones who walked away before the credits rolled. A few months passed. Things stayed quiet on the surface. No texts, no surprise appearances, no new tricks. Then Aaron got an envelope in the mail, hand-addressed, no return label. Inside was an invitation to a formal banquet hosted by a local community organization. His father was receiving an award for service to family values and local education. The irony nearly knocked the wind out of me. What caught our attention more was the guest list printed inside. Aaron's name was listed under supportive family attendees. No +1, just him. Despite being completely estranged, someone had decided to include him publicly to round out the image. We debated whether to go. My first instinct was no. It felt like another setup waiting to happen. But the longer we talked about it, the clearer it became. This wasn't about revenge, it was about truth. His father wanted to be celebrated as the perfect patriarch. Fine. But Aaron had every right to set the record straight. We RSVP'd, yes. Aaron made a formal request to the organizers, a short speech after the award presentation, framed as a tribute from the honoree's son. They approved it without hesitation. I probably thought it would be a heartfelt moment. We spent 2 nights drafting the speech. No attacks, no direct accusations, just honest words. Truths framed calmly. If it hurt, it was only because it exposed what had been hiding behind a carefully managed image. The night of the banquet, we arrived dressed like we belonged on the cover of a magazine. Downtown ballroom, black tie dress code, string quartet playing near the bar. The second we stepped inside, Aaron's parents spotted us. His father froze mid-handshake with someone. His mother blinked twice and forced a brittle smile. "Oh, you came," she said. I smiled back. Wouldn't miss it for the world. We were seated 2 tables away from the stage. The dinner began, and I could already hear it. Whispers, subtle glances, the kind of quiet gossip that spreads faster than butter on warm bread. It was obvious they'd spent the past year painting us as cold, distant, maybe even unstable. I caught a few lines. Such a shame, really, he just pulled away from everyone. She changed him, you know. Then the award presentation began. A local official stepped up and gave a glowing speech about Aaron's father. Called him a pillar of the community, a man who kept his family close through every storm, and a beacon of traditional values. Aaron's hands were calm, folded on the table. He listened, then stood when his name was called. He walked to the stage, took the microphone, and faced the crowd. The lights caught his face in a way that made the whole room pause. "I want to thank everyone for being here tonight," he began. "It means a lot to celebrate what we think family should look like." A few nods. Safe opening. "But honoring family values also means honoring boundaries," he continued. "And as someone who was told to abandon his marriage because my wife earns more than I do, I have thoughts." The room stiffened. He didn't name anyone. He didn't need to. Respect isn't about income. Love isn't about control. Real strength isn't found in paychecks or pride. It's found in protecting the people who choose you, every single day, even when others demand that you choose differently. A fork dropped somewhere. His aunt covered her mouth. A cousin looked away. The air in the room turned sharp, like glass cracking under pressure. Aaron nodded once, handed the microphone back, and walked off stage. We left without another word. No confrontation. No lingering. Just the sound of heels clicking and whispers growing louder behind us. By the time we got home, the fallout had already started. The cousin who hosted the birthday party messaged him that night, apologized again, said she was done pretending his parents were harmless. 2 more relatives messaged by the end of the week with similar messages. All 3 said they were cutting ties with his parents. A week later, we heard through one of Aaron's old college friends that his father had quietly stepped down from the local family council board. No public statement, just a quiet exit. We didn't wait around to see what else would fall apart. Aaron took a job offer in another city, closer to some old friends, farther from his family's shadow. We packed our things, updated our security settings again, and moved out of state 2 weeks later. No forwarding address, no open invitations, no looking back. Our marriage didn't just survive, it evolved, stronger, sharper, built on decisions made together instead of demands made by others. If that banquet was their last attempt to own the story, then Aaron's speech rewrote the ending. And this time, we were the ones holding the pen.